Welcome, Wapham crew, guys, gals, ghouls, and other worldly beings. Let's climb aboard the mothership, secure our tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. I'm your ghostess with the mostest, TessaTNT, broadcasting from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to WeAreParadoxMedia's Late Night in the Rockies. It is an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to have you hanging out with me on the airwaves tonight. I'm so glad you could be here. Hope you enjoy yourself as much as I do. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it or working out, you can find me on Spreaker and basically anywhere else that you listen to your podcasts. Pretty sure I sent us everywhere. And if you don't mind, mosey on over to our YouTube channel and check that out. Please subscribe, like any video that you've watched or listened to, and leave me comments, whether good, bad, yay, nay. I want to hear your input and where you're coming from. So tonight, I was wanting to talk about the disappearances of all of these scientists, rocket scientists, and people in the conspiracy and UFO conspiracy and other fields like that have been dying mysteriously, dying due to supposed sewer slide, and just plain disappearing 30 feet from somebody. One of the most recent is David Wilcock, and he is actually from Boulder County, Colorado. I believe they called it Netherland. And supposedly he did the sewer slide, except I don't believe it. I'm having a hard time with this. A lot of these people that they're claiming did the sewer slide are making videos beforehand stating that they would never, ever do that to themselves. And then a day or two later, it happens. Like, I don't know. And then, the families come out and say, well, they were dealing with depression or this and this and that and that. I don't know, if your family member gets offed by the government or whoever it may be that's doing this, of course the family's not going to right out say what happened, If they killed the whole family, that'd be very suspicious, unless it was like a car accident or something. But yeah, so I wanted to get into that a little bit. So far, like I mentioned last weekend when I had Psychic Chris Garcia on, there's 11 to 12. At the time, it was just 11. And then 2 days later, it was 12. But some of those on that list: Eric Von Daniken, Nick Pope, Michael Anthony, Anthony Chavez, Melissa Cassius, Jason Thomas, Carl Grillmere, Monica Reza, Stephen Garcia, Nuno Carrero, William Neal McCasland, and then David Wilcock of the Divine Cosmos. And he had, I think, 500,000 followers. I'm not quite sure. Let you in on a little secret. This is the second time I've started this. First time, my microphone didn't want to work. Got it to work, and then all of a sudden, everything else worked fine, but my Spreaker Studio decided to freeze up. Then my microphone didn't want to work, so I had to restart the computer, and that lost the first recording, and I was really on to something, but luckily we weren't too far into it. But let's get a little bit more into it. What do you think? Another thing that I wanted to mention that I found very odd was the fact that I believe it was his... Hold on. It wasn't his hold on. Dang it, it was in the comments down here. Where did it go? What? Wow, it's amazing, like, how quickly things change. Okay, so 2 days prior to Michael Wilcock leaving us, his biographer, Winfrey, died 2 days prior. How? I don't know. We'll probably look into that too. But yeah, this is not just happening in the United States. This is happening in other countries. So yeah, pretty strange indeed. So this one is an article from MSN, I believe. And it's saying David Wilcock's chilling 911 call reveal final moments, financial struggles. I'm sorry to put you, and then it cuts off. So here we go. David Wilcock, a well-known paranormal author and YouTuber, passed away at the age of 53 earlier this week, and authorities have said that he was facing financial challenges before his death. Following the announcement of the social media figure's death on Monday, April 20th, the Boulder County Sheriff's Office provided a timeline detailing their response to the situation, and I would really like to watch and listen to this 911 call, but nobody's been able to so far. Of course, there's probably investigation going on, but they generally don't say the cause until everything's figured out. But David Wilcock's 911 call is stated in the press release issued on Thursday, April 23rd. A 911 call was received on Monday at 10:44 a.m. The caller, who identified himself as Wilcock according to the release, discussed his health issues and financial concerns. He even said, "I need to leave." Due to Wilcock's refusal to disclosure whether he was armed, a deputy from the Boulder County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to the location and awaited backup as they were uncertain of his intentions. The Boulder County Sheriff's Office reported that deputies witnessed Wilcock holding a gun, which they indicated he used on himself. He was declared deceased at the location. As far as the health issues go, he had so many weird things happening. Hopefully we'll come across that again like we did the first time, but he had complained of numbness, tingling, a bunch of different things, and he was said to say, "This doesn't feel like getting old or getting older. This feels like something else." And there was another person recently on TikTok who is also in either the UFO disclosure or rocket scientist or anti-gravitational motors or whatever else. She was talking about directed energy weapons and was showing like how her window lined up with her computer, and as she typed, it caused a burn on her hand closest to the window. Very strange. Nothing else burned but her hand. I don't know. And people are freaking out, as they would if something like this was happening. David Wilcock's family releases a statement. In a statement released by Wilcock's family, they affirmed that the author, known for writing several books and frequently discussing aliens and UFOs, took his own life on April 20th, 2026, following a prolonged battle with depression and insurmountable financial debt. His family and chosen family hope this loss encourages more focused attention to mental health and care access. The statement said, as per The Sun. And The Sun is another newspaper. Remembering him as a man who laughed easily and had a big heart, they said, like many young people, he experienced painful periods of struggle and difficulty. Beyond his public persona, he was a human, navigating the same complexities and vulnerabilities that shape all our lives, the family stated. His passing is a reminder of how important it is to meet one another with open minds and compassion in our hearts. the loss of a life can turn our focus to our shared humanity, whether we agree on life's unanswered questions or not. Wilcock earlier dismissed notion of sewer slide. So Wilcock was actively posting on his YouTube channel, and like I said, that was called The Divine Cosmos, and shared updates on his X handle just hours before his passing. The conspiracy theorist had previously rejected the notion of sewer slide, which now prompts further inquiries into his true struggles away from the public eye. The paranormal author, recognized for his contributions to UFO theories and the so-called disclosure movement, had also alluded to personal challenges in the days leading up to his death, informing his followers that he was facing intense stuff, while also conveying his appreciation for their support. Don't go anywhere. We got more going on with this. We have just hit the cusp. Now we have this article from the Daily Mail. Deadline for missing scientist probe nears as congressman warns of sinister plot unfolding. Sorry, I can't talk. President Trump's deadline for answers to the deaths and disappearances of American scientists and nuclear officials is reportedly approaching, but a concerning update may leave many seeking answers disturbed. Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett told the Daily Mail that if a conspiracy against U.S. scientific community was unfolding, he was concerned that the source may actually originate on U.S. soil, not in a foreign country, which, like I said, this is happening in other countries as well. He suspected that a plot similar to the actions of the infamous Cold War-era CIA program, MKUltra, which allegedly kidnapped and drugged scientists, may be taking place in present-day America. Burchett said, "I just go back to the whole concept of MKUltra. They kidnapped people and they loaded them up with acid or other mind-altering drugs. They tried to erase their memories. And then they were sued in court. And then they claimed that it didn't exist. Then, in 1975, they ordered a bunch of the records disposed of or destroyed. And then they come out later and said, well, that did exist, but it doesn't exist anymore. You know, which lies are we supposed to believe here? A federal investigation has reportedly been opened into the collection of NASA-linked scientists, nuclear lab workers, and a retired Air Force general who have either died or mysteriously vanished since 2022. President Trump said on April 16th, "I hope it is random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half." Burchett, who has previously slammed the intelligence community for not responding to his attempts to get answers on the case, claimed that federal agents may end up withholding what they learn from the president as well. "I'm in a meeting with some little punk bureaucrat with a man bun telling me that the president's on a need-to-know basis. That, to me, sends a very chilling message for what's really going on out there," Burchett said. While discussing the investigation, Trump previously said, "I just left a meeting on that subject, so pretty serious stuff. Hopefully coincidence, but some of them were very important people, and we are going to take a look at it." How many other things has he said that about, which he's got his finger deep into those pies? However, the congressman revealed that it will likely be Washington intelligence officers briefing Trump on the deaths and disappearances, adding that they're not in the business of telling anybody the truth or doing what's right. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly told the Daily Mail the White House continues to coordinate across the interagency in order to investigate these events and provide transparency to the American people. "We will not get ahead of the investigation," Kelly added. The Trump administration did not mention Burchett's comments in their statement. A Tennessee lawmaker and other members of Congress have publicly expressed their concern over the alleged pattern of alarming incidents involving Americans who reportedly had access to classified information and national security secrets. Chief among those individuals has been General William Neal McCasland, the former head of the Air Force Research Lab, who reportedly oversaw both nuclear and UFO-related programs. He's the guy that had a lot of nuclear secrets. I've been told by several sources that he was the gatekeeper for the UFO stuff, Burchett told WABC in New York in March. Prior to the retired general's disappearance on February 27th from his New Mexico home, local authorities across the U.S. had been investigating 4 other missing person cases and a number of deaths involving high-profile scientists working on key breakthroughs. Daily Mail has reached out to the families of several individuals who have been named in the ongoing probe, all of whom have said they did not believe their missing or dead loved one were tied to a conspiracy being carried out against U.S. citizens. Of course they did. However, Congressman Eric Burleson of Missouri has noted that there is concern the pattern could be tied to the actions of a foreign government. But like I said before, this is happening in other countries as well. On April 19th, Burleson wrote on X, "We are in competition with China, Russia, and Iran on nuclear technology, advanced weapons, and space. Meanwhile, our top scientists keep vanishing. This is all the hallmarks of a foreign operation. I am working with Democrats and Republicans to get the FBI fully engaged. This is not partisan." Burchett acknowledged the current national security theory, but revealed his own theory to the Daily Mail, suggesting that the string of disappearances may have been meant to send a message to someone in the U.S. considering leaking information to another world power. Burchett began his analogy by saying, "You and your family are mobbed up, and you own a very nice restaurant, a fancy restaurant that has a worldwide clientele, and you suspect your chef might be selling some of the recipes or leaking them to some of the competition. You can't take them out, but you want to send them a message. The obvious way to do that, to me, would be to rough up a few busboys and send that message up the chain," the congressman continued. Granted, these 11 or 12 people that have disappeared or died mysteriously are not necessarily busboys, but there's somebody that's ahead of them in the food chain. There's somebody that knows more than most. Burchett added that individuals... I pressed read more and it sent me somewhere else. Sorry, guys. What? Alright. Took me to the very original article. I gotta wait for this to load now. Granted, these 11 or 12 people that have disappeared or died mysteriously are not necessarily busboys, but there's somebody that's ahead of them in the food chain. There's somebody that knows more than most. Burchett added that the individuals in private industry allegedly have access to materials that could be extraterrestrial. Working off of his unproven theory that an operation was unfolding to intimidate individuals feared to leak U.S. secrets, the congressman said, "It would probably serve them well to keep their mouths shut, especially right now." See, and I don't understand why it sent us over to this other article, because these both end at the same place. So why put read more? Well, I think I found it. There's a video by Chump, just saying the same thing they said he said. No, I can listen to it. But it's just 35 seconds. Pretty sure we could handle that. It's going to take a second to load. Probably. It sucks that when you freeze in a video or paused or whatever, it's always on the worst looking frame. All right, this is a little loud. Let me see if I can turn it down a smidge, because I don't know about you, but it's blowing out my eardrums. All right, 35 seconds. We could do this.
10 missing scientists with access.
Come on.
Classified stuff, nuclear material, aerospace. They've all gone missing or turned up dead in the last couple months. Based on what you've been briefed, what do you think is happening here? And do you think this is connected or totally random? Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left the meeting on that subject, so pretty serious stuff, but we're going to be done. Hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, but some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next.
All right, and I don't know if I said this before or not. You know, I have drain bramage, but one of the things that I saw over here on this page, which is the Daily Mail, shows something quite interesting. So it's a table. I wish I could save this picture or take a clear, picture of it. But it's talking about some of the people that have died or are missing, and the links between the missing and dead officials. So Frank Maywald was a top scientist detecting signs of alien life, dead. Carl Grillmeyer, scientist working on infrared telescopes. Grillmeyer's work found a planet with water, dead. Michael David Hicks, also dead. NASA research scientists. And missing is Monica Jacinto Reza. She's the one, I believe, that went missing recently in California. And she was the director of Materials Processing Group. So all of these people worked for NASA JPL. And then, so the connection between Monica Jacinto Reza, hold on. Why are these guys just down here by themselves? Okay, well, this connects to the other one through her receiving funding from the AFRL Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We've heard about those guys. William Neil McCasland, missing, oversaw funding for Reza's project. He also oversaw research at the Air Force Research Laboratory, AFRL Kirtland Air Force Base. So let's see. Let's scroll up to the people that are linked with this feller. Okay, so this goes up to one of the missing people, Stephen Garcia. He was a government contractor. Builds parts of nuclear weapons. He was linked to Kansas City National Security Campus, which builds parts for nuclear weapons, AFRL, Kirtland Air Force Base. We go up to Los Alamos National Lab, and we have missing Melissa Casillas, administrative assistant, and Anthony Chavez, former employee until 2017, missing. So this is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so at the bottom, dead, or assumed dead, I guess you would say. I don't know. Nuno Loureiro, nuclear fusion researcher. No direct connection discovered between any of these other people. Dead, Jason Thomas, pharmaceutical researcher. No direct connection discovered. Dead, Amy Catherine Eskridge, anti-gravity researcher. No direct connection discovered. And I find that quite strange, don't you? I don't know. Things are mad whack these days. All right, let's give this a like, maybe, if it lets us. Okay. I always try to give people appreciation for their work. Most important. Okay, so another thing I want to do is to look up David Wilcock's channel, which I have not done yet, because I came across an article about Trump safe after being rushed from White House Correspondents' Dinner as attendees take over. This just happened not too long ago. This was posted an hour ago. It's a 1-minute read, so we'll get into this really quick and then we'll get back to what we were watching in the first place. Or getting into. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were rushed out of the White House Correspondents' Association dinner by Secret Service agents on Saturday night after a loud, unidentified noise. A White House aide said Trump was safe after a freelance photographer working for Reuters heard 4 to 6 loud bangs in the hotel, but not the immediate vicinity of the diner. Or the dinner. Multiple media reports said there was a gunman. Dinner attendees immediately stopped talking and people started screaming, "Get down! Get down!" Hundreds of guests dove under the tables as Secret Service officers in combat gear ran into the dining room. Trump and the First Lady had bent down behind the dais before being hustled out by Secret Service officers. Many of the 2,600 attendees took cover while waiters fled to the front of the dining hall. Shortly before being escorted off the stage by security, Melania Trump appeared to react to something in the crowd and had a concerned look on her face, according to a live feed from C-SPAN. I wonder what she saw. It shows pictures of all kinds of different people running, but not Trump or Melania. Wow. Another distraction. But yeah, they ended up calling off that dinner for the evening. A lot of people are disappointed because there was a supposed another attempt on the president's life. Give me a break. Man. All right. All right, so I moseyed on over to his channel, and the last video I see was a live from 6 days ago, and David never did pre-records unless it was on somebody else's show. He always did lives, and this last one was Pathway to Peace, ? And starts off, acting like Mad Dad or whatever he calls it, wearing glasses and doing an impression, and then stops that and goes into talking to the people that are watching live and talking about his mom who watches him on this channel, saying she can't see him, so he put on a brighter shirt. And there is nothing at all that I've seen so far that tells me that he did this to himself. And let's see how much of this I watched. I watched like 10 minutes of this. So, yeah. Let's see what his description is. And then I also wanted to let you know that there's a lot of comments down in the chat room. Like, there's a live chat that's going on during the live, but I X'd that out because it's just too much for me. But people coming in afterward have a lot to say. But this is the description of his video. POTUS angered both sides by posing a picture that appears to depict him as Christ, only to delete it after widespread criticism. He then claimed it was an image of him as a doctor, which no one believed. Worst of all, the original image was doctored to create a horned, winged being in the middle, hiding in plain sight. What in the world is going on here? Is this the spirit of the Antichrist, as many suggested? How does this factor in with our overall level of conflict and whether we will make it through this terrible war and be okay? We also have incredible disclosure news going on with promises of much to come very soon. This, I don't know, is this all going to work out or are we doomed? Join David and find out what is really going on in this exciting and controversial show. Don't miss it. Sign up at dwilcock.com and give us your email address to be included on mailing lists for future events and offers. So go check that out. There's a scam alert. Just saying that David won't do private contact. As, you know, anyone who contacts you privately is a fraudster. So Freedom Fries 369 says, I'm a personal friend of David who just learned of his passing. I was at his wedding and have known him of 17 years. David's stance on karmic implications of sewer slide would have prevented him from taking his own life. He believed the price of doing so would be enormous, and he believed in his mission in this incarnation, no matter the cost. I do not believe the official story at all. Someone saying, who else is here after learning what happened? He didn't do it. Someone needs to download all this stuff before they erase it forever. Chris says 60 of us or so are coming back here on Sunday to do the meditation. The meditation begins at the 3-hour and 17 mark. We are gathering at approximately 4:25 Central Standard Time. Perhaps next week we can continue with the previous video. Join us if you like. Creation's vibration. David literally said on video multiple times that he is not suicidal. Media One Up LLC says, David taught about the karmic consequences of suicide. He didn't off himself. Glaff792, David wasn't suicidal. I've known David for a while now, and he was always wondering, when are they going to come for me to hush me up? It was always a joking manner. Now look. Johto is kind of seeing the same thing I'm seeing. The video above was not made by a suicidal, depressed man suffering from poor mental health. Webs of lies unravel before our eyes. Stacy Ramstad said, David was not suicidal. I want justice for David, so heartbroken right now. Aww. Somebody saying that he loved him like a son. His heart is broken. May you find peace. And we'll be praying for you for the rest of my life. Moida, right out Moida. Erhud Dreamer said, he did say people were after him. He was not suicidal, and you all know that. Call it for what it is. So devastating for all of us. Crystal Bay, I can't accept this. I've been watching David for 15 years. God bless his soul. Rest in peace, David. He would never do that. Justice for David, please. Evil is among us. Stand for truth. Do not be silenced. This is not a depressed person. Rest in peace, David. Yeah, see, everybody is saying they don't believe it. Why would you say so many times in recent times, people are after you, and I would never ever, if this ever happens, it's not me. I would never ever do this to myself. And if you're interested in going to his channel, again, it's Divine Cosmos. And it seems that every video he did was 3 hours and 33 minutes with some seconds going on there. Pretty interesting time for a show. 3 hours and 33 minutes. Intriguing. All right, well, let's move on. I wanted to look up a couple more people, like the most recent one I was talking about out of California, who went hiking with a friend. A friend looked back, she waved at him. They kept walking, turned back around to, check on her again, and she was gone within a matter of seconds or minutes, I'm not sure. But yeah, let's pull up either a video or a story about her real quick. Alright, we're going to get into some Yahoo for us yahoos here. There's several different articles for this. This one looked like the best to me because we already read about what Trump said. We might pop back to the other one. This one is taking its sweet-ass time loading, but yeah, it's just very intriguing what the heck is going on out there. Monica Reza is a missing scientist. The strange circumstances of her disappearance. Monica Reza is a brilliant scientist with ties to NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab project who disappeared without a trace while hiking in California. She is also known as Monica Jacinto, fellow materials science and engineering at Aerojet Rocketdyne. Her LinkedIn page describes her. Reza's name is on the list of 10 missing and dead scientists in the U.S. The disappearances and deaths are part of a new federal investigation to see if they are connected, the White House announced. One of the names on that list is that of Monica Reza, who is reigning additional concern because she has a connection to another scientist on the list, a retired general named William McCasland. That's the person I was going to look up next. But who was Monica Reza, and what's known about her disappearance? The circumstances are strange. Authorities posted on an alert about Reza's disappearance in June 2025. The Crescenta Valley Sheriff's Office alert reads, "Missing hiker, help us locate Monica Reza." The flyer says that Reza was a resident of Los Angeles County who was last seen hiking on June 22, 2025 at 9:10 a.m. along Angeles Crest Highway. There is concern for Miss Reza's well-being, the flyer said, indicating that the Sheriff's Homicide Bureau was involved. Crescenta Valley Station is actively searching for Monica Reza, who was last seen while hiking in the Mount Waterman area, the notice said. She was last seen wearing the clothing shown in the flyer. If you have any information about Monica's whereabouts or may have seen her in the area, please contact our station immediately at 818-248-3464. Please share this post to help bring Monica home safely. Monica Reza's scent was tracked to a hat after she began oddly running, reports say. According to LA Mag, Reza was last seen around 9 a.m. near the Mount Waterman area in California's Angeles National Forest and was classified as an at-risk missing person. The trail ended with her scent reportedly stopping at a hat believed to have belonged to her. That magazine reported through a source that Reza was hiking, male and female companion from her yoga group, which blends physical yoga practice with spiritual and philosophical philosophical elements, including astrology and traditional Vedic teachings from ancient India. According to LA Mag, Reza and her male companion oddly began running on the terrain, which is uncommon given how steep and uneven it is. I've actually done that before up in the mountains when we went four-wheeling, and I had to get off the four-wheeler and walk down a certain area, and it was so steep, like it was either run or slip and fall and bust my head and booty and whatever. But sometimes you just gotta go with the gravity. I did almost fall, but didn't. Yeah. The man confirmed Reza was behind him, reportedly running, when he eventually called out to her and received no response, LA Mag added. Monica Reza worked for a company called Aerojet Rocketdyne. Ooh. Frank Maywald died July 2024. No autopsy. Carl Grillmere shot February 2026. Michael Hicks died July 2023. Cause hidden. Monica Reza vanished June 2025. Melissa Casillas vanished June 2025. Anthony Chavez vanished May 2025. William McCaslin vanished February 2026. These deaths you can find at pictwitter.com. That is crazy. I gotta write down this list so I can check this out too. Gotta get into this. What is going on? Reza worked for Aerojet Rocketdyne for more than 37 years in the area of fellow materials, science, and engineering. Her LinkedIn page says, before that, she worked for 25 years for Pratt & Whitney in fellow structural alloys. She has a master's degree in materials engineering from UCLA that dates to 1997 and a bachelor's degree in metallurgical engineering from Columbia University. She followed one other page of interest, Jack Welch, executive chairman of the Jack Welch Management Institute. According to the New York Post, that company was funded for years by NASA and the Air Force Research Laboratory. She patented a nickel-based superalloy called Mandalloy, which brought her into the orbit of McCaslin, who oversaw the Air Force group that funded research in the early 2000s into advanced materials needed for reusable space vehicles and weapons, reported the Post. Because Mandalloy is a family of alloys, I worked with the Air Force to scale up production, look at different processing methods, and get the material ready for insertion into a rocket engine, she told Space News in 2017. According to LA Mag, Reza co-patented burn-resistant and high-strength metal alloys, confirming her background in advanced aerospace research. She has also been linked to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where she was reportedly stationed at the same time as retired Air Force General Neil McCaslin, added LA Mag, describing that as a facility long associated with advanced aerospace programs and reportedly sensitive material connected to the Roswell crash. Well, that's interesting. A Facebook page documents months of searches trying to find Monica Reza. There is a Facebook page devoted to finding Reza, documents months of search efforts which were not successful. Dedicated volunteers continue to keep this community-led search going with steady resolve, hiking and searching the vast terrain around Mount Waterman, as well as a volunteer outreach and coordination. An admin on that page wrote in November. It says here, related, this story was originally published by Men's Journal on April 18th, 2026, where it first appeared in the news section. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And yeah, so I guess she disappeared in 2025? Did they write that down wrong? Because this was just in the news recently. Maybe it's because that's when William Neil McCasland disappeared just a couple months ago, and she was associated with him. Very strange indeed. Yeah, scary stuff, I tell you what. Missing general with alleged UFO ties added to federal list. Lawmakers add Major General William Neil McCasland, who retired from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, to federal list of missing persons with access to sensitive information. Retired U.S. Air Force Major General William Neil McCasland, a former Wright-Patterson Air Force Base commander who disappeared in New Mexico, is among roughly 10 scientists on a federal list of missing or deceased individuals with access to classified information, drawing more scrutiny from federal agencies and lawmakers. Some lawmakers have raised concerns about recent deaths and disappearances involving scientists or research staff who may have had access to sensitive information. Congressman James Comer and Eric Burleson have requested briefings from federal agencies on those named, citing cases that range from disappearances to homicides. Here is what investigators have said about Ms. McCasland's disappearance so far. Major General William Neil McCasland still missing. What we know so far. McCasland, 68, was last seen February 27th at his home in Bernalillo County, New Mexico, where his wife reported him missing later that day after finding his phone, prescription glasses, and other personal items left behind, according to the sheriff's office. His prior command of Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson has brought heightened public attention to the case, and authorities say that the investigation remains active and that there is no evidence of foul play. Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office in New Mexico and the FBI continue to treat McCasland as a missing person, and a silver alert remains in effect, and ask those with information to text BCSO to 847-411 or call its missing persons unit. They said there was no evidence of foul play at the time, and items including a revolver appeared to be missing from the residence as well. Makes you wonder. Earlier in April, BCSO said that there had been no new update in the case and confirmed that the investigation remains open, according to Newsweek. BCSO told the publication they are aware of speculation surrounding the disappearance, but are focusing on verified information and credible leads, not online theories. At this time, we have not developed evidence establishing that Mr. McCasland's disappearance is connected to his classified work, BCSO told Newsweek. This remains an active investigation, and we are not going to speculate or rule in or out possibilities without evidence. In a March 16th news conference, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office said it had issued the silver alert because McCasland previously reported that he was experiencing a mental fog. But Lieutenant Kyle Woods of the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office underscored that investigators do not believe McCasland was cognitively impaired at the time of his disappearance. A silver alert is an advisory for a missing person who is 50 or older and has an irreversible deterioration of intellectual faculties, according to New Mexico Department of Public Safety. Well, then that really doesn't cover him now, does it? I mean, the age does, but not the faculties. There's no indication, and we are not putting forward that Mr. McCasland was disoriented, confused, Woods said. Arguably, he would still be the most intelligent person in the room that any of us would be in. Highly intelligent, highly capable, but that information was given to us early on, and out of abundance of caution, we escalated to a silver alert to try to garner as much public attention as possible, to try to help locate him as soon as possible. The sheriff's office said there were still no confirmed sightings of McCasland, and reiterated that there is currently no evidence of foul play. The case remains an active missing persons investigation. McCasland led Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. McCasland was the commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near Dayton, according to his Air Force biography. He managed a $2.2 billion science and technology program, as well as a $2.2 billion in additional customer-funded research and development. He joined Wright-Patterson in 2011 and retired in 2013. Well, that was a short stint. He was commissioned in 1979 after graduating from the U.S. Air Force Academy with a Bachelor of Science degree in astronautical engineering. He has served in a wide variety of space research, acquisition, and operation roles within the Air Force and the National Reconnaissance Office. McCasland's wife responds to speculation about his disappearance and pushes back against misinformation. Susan McCasland Wilkerson, the general's wife, took to social media on March 6th to dispel some of the misinformation circulating about Neil and his disappearance. In a Facebook post, McCasland Wilkerson refutes media reports alleging McCasland's dementia concerning phone calls and his involvement with the UFO community. It is true that Neil had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman from Blink-182 and founder of the organization To the Stars. Wilkerson wrote, Neil worked with Tom for a bit shortly after his Air Force retirement as an unpaid, Neil's choice, consultant on military and technical scientific matters to lend verisimilitude to Tom's fiction book and media activities. Also being spread by uninformed media sources, she said, includes misinformation about his medical issues. Some assume the medical issues mentioned in the Silver Alert meant Alzheimer's. Wilkerson said her husband is at some risk, but not from dementia. A concerning phone call to a close relative. This is a complete fabrication, she writes. His access to classified material. While McCasland has access to highly classified documents while on active duty, he has had only very commonly held clearances since retiring 13 years ago. It seems quite unlikely that he was taken to extract very dated secrets from him. His ties to the UFO community. Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from the Roswell crash stored at Wright-Patterson. McCasland mentioned in WikiLeaks release in connection to UFOs. McCasland was described as a key advisor on UFO-related projects by DeLonge, UFO researcher and guitarist for the band Blink-182. The general's name appears in the 2016 WikiLeaks email release from John Podesta, then Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. In emails to Podesta, DeLonge said he has been working with McCasland for months and that the general was aware of the materials DeLonge was probing because McCasland has been in charge of the laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where the Roswell wreckage was shipped, according to Newsweek. However, there is no official record of DeLonge's claims, and McCasland has neither confirmed nor denied it. Hold on one second here. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, home to UFO Project. The Dayton Air Force Base was home to Project Blue Book in the 1950s and 60s, according to the Air Force investigation into UFOs, published by Ohio State University. During that time, it logged 12,618 UFO sightings, with 701 of those remaining unidentified. The U.S. government created the project because of Cold War-era security concerns and Americans obsessed with aliens. Well, maybe that might be because they are real. Yeah, so still no word on where he's at. He didn't take his car, he didn't take really anything. Not his bike, not nothing, just his gun. Alright. Who is next on our list for research into this craziness? Families of missing scientists break their silence. So I looked up Melissa Casillas, and this is one of the things that popped up. The families of some of the missing nuclear scientists have lashed out over speculation that they vanished due to their jobs, telling the Daily Mail the frenzy is hindering the search for their loved ones. Melissa Casillas, so she was 53, Anthony Tony Chavez, 79, General Neil McCaslin, 68, and Stephen Garcia, 49, have all disappeared from their New Mexico homes within the last year. All four had links to U.S. defense and nuclear programs, although none are scientists. Casillas worked in administration at the Los Alamos National Laboratory and had no security clearance at all when she vanished last May, after it was yanked due to large debts racked up by her husband Mark. Oh no. Chavez and McCaslin, who disappeared in May 2025 and February 2026, respectively, were both long retired, and neither had had any sort of security clearance for decades. Garcia, who vanished last August, worked for the Albuquerque outpost of the Kansas City National Security Campus and did hold low-level security clearance, just enough to cover his role as a building manager. This Los Alamos thing, no, it had nothing to do with that, Casillas' distraught dad Joe Mondragon told the Daily Mail in an interview at his Taos, New Mexico home. I don't think it had anything to do with Los Alamos, nothing at all. It was something else. Thomas McNally, a Phoenix-based private investigator hired by Casillas' parents, angrily told Daily Mail that the speculation is causing huge amounts of distress to her family and could even lead to her case going unsolved. Projection of job-related motives in disappearance. The former homicide detective told the Daily Mail, "Let me just put that speculation to bed real quick. Melissa and her husband, Mark, both work at LANL. So let's see, do I have Mark on here too? No, I don't see him on here. Weird. Not on my list. Mark is in building construction, and Melissa, although her title was an administrative assistant, that's not really what she did. She was basically a purchaser. They would give her a list of things to buy at Walmart, and she would go out and buy them. That was her job. When they ran into financial trouble, they both lost their clearances, and she was transferred to a position that required essentially no clearance whatsoever. I want to be empathetic on this point. This is in no way, shape, or form related to her job. Susan Wilkerson McCaslin also told the Daily Mail that the speculation over her husband's disappearance is wide of the mark, answering with a categorical no when asked if she believed her husband's prior security clearances and past connections with UFO researchers had anything to do with his disappearance. In an impassioned social media post on March 6th, Susan hit out at the misinformation published since her husband went missing in late February and emphasized that while he did oversee a U.S. space weapons program during his career, He had been retired and without security clearances for 13 years. She also said his links to the UFO community, via former Blink-182 frontman Tom DeLonge, had long lapsed, adding that he knew the Roswell enthusiast briefly and had merely helped him out by acting as an unpaid consultant on military matters for a novel he was writing. What a novel idea. Neighbors reject links between disappearances and past jobs. Chavez, the oldest of the 4 missing New Mexico people, had been enjoying a quiet retirement in his modest wooden home in Los Alamos for over 2 decades when he went missing, with neighbors telling the Daily Mail that trying to link it to his former job amounts to a conspiracy theory. Neighbor Flora Krause, 60, told the Daily Mail, "Tony hadn't had any sort of security clearance for 20 years. He was retired." Well, she sure knows an awful lot about her neighbor, don't she? He kept to himself, mostly to himself, but we'd always see him riding his bike around the neighborhood. We've been taking care of his grass and keeping it nice for him. Garcia, who vanished last August, was last seen close to his Albuquerque home and had a handgun with him when he went missing. Although the Daily Mail was unable to contact his wife, Valerie, 43, a neighbor said she does not believe his disappearance had anything to do with his job, and said she believes it could have something to do with his previous military career instead. Despite their family's anguish, Casillas, Garcia, McCaslin, and Chavez have been included in speculation over a spate of 11 disappearances and deaths of people with ties to nuclear and national security. The frenzy over the mystery has grown so large, it has even attracted the attention of President Trump, who pledged last week to have his administration look for any foul play. Sure. But McNally said the noise surrounding the disappearances is nothing but a distraction and has no basis in reality. Focus on personal impact of the disappearance. I am beyond disgusted at the fact that the media is trying to tie this case to this government UFO conspiracy thing, he told the Daily Mail. What the attention should be on is that there's a 53-year-old woman who's missing and has a family who love her, while the husband is out trying to date other women and doesn't care about her. For her dad, Joe Casillas, disappearance is agony. We saw her on the day she went missing, and she was in good spirits, he said. There was nothing wrong with her at all. He added, "There's someone out there who knows a little or knows a lot, if you know what I mean. I look up at the mountains every day and think of her. There's a lot of people who love her, who want her back." We had to click the read more link so we can see what the last of this story is. Alright, I'm gonna pause here really quick so I can scroll down to where we left off. Alright, we're gonna get into Mr. Chavez here. Retired Los Alamos National Laboratory employee Anthony Tony Chavez remains missing nearly a year after vanishing from his New Mexico home. Anthony Tony Chavez, a 78-year-old longtime resident and retired employee of one of the nation's most sensitive nuclear research facilities, has been missing since early May 2025, with no trace found despite extensive searches by local police and coordinated agencies. Chavez was last seen on or around May 4th, 2025, leaving his home on 37th Street in the Denver Stills neighborhood of Los Alamos on foot. He reportedly departed without his wallet, keys, cigarettes, phone, or other personal items, which were found inside the residence on a table. His car remained locked in the driveway. There were no signs of forced entry, struggle, or disturbance at the home. He was formally reported missing on May 8th, 2025, The Los Alamos Police Department conducted exhaustive searches, including coordination with multiple agencies, review of leads, and use of cadaver dogs in nearby areas such as Pueblo Canyon and surrounding trails. All efforts have proved unsuccessful. Banking activity linked to Chavez reportedly ceased around May 5th, and he has not been sighted since. Family and friends have described the disappearance as completely out of character for Chavez, who was known as a stable, healthy individual and a regular presence in the tight-knit Los Alamos community. LAPD Detective Sergeant Ryan Wolking and subsequent statements from the department emphasized that while Chavez was not initially believed to be endangered, public assistance was urgently sought to ensure his safety. As of mid-2026, the case remains open with no breakthroughs reported. Chavez worked for many years at Los Alamos National Laboratory, a cornerstone of the U.S. nuclear weapons program and national security science since the Manhattan Project era. Man. He retired in 2017 while specific details of his role and any security clearances have not been publicly disclosed. His long tenure at the high-security facility has drawn attention amid a broader cluster of unusual deaths and disappearances involving personnel tied to nuclear aerospace and defense research. His case shares notable similarities with others in the so-called dark pattern or nuclear vanishing pattern. 1. Leaving on foot with minimal or no personal items. 2. No evident foul play or signs of struggle. 3. Connections to sensitive government programs. In Chavez's case, LANL. Others involve NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Air Force Research Laboratory projects, and advanced materials and rocket propulsion work. Just weeks after Chavez vanished, Melissa Casillas, an administrative assistant at LANL with reported security clearance, also disappeared under puzzling circumstances. Other linked cases include the disappearance of aerospace engineer Monica Jacinto Reza and retired Air Force Major General William Neal McCasland. Local media, including the Los Alamos Reporter, covered the case in May 2025 after social media posts raised concern. Coverage outside the immediate area has been limited, and the story has largely faded from mainstream headlines, despite ongoing speculation in online forums and independent investigations. LAPD has reiterated its commitment to following every lead and coordinating with local businesses and agencies. Authorities continue to treat the matter as a missing person case. No evidence of criminal activity has been publicly confirmed, and officials have not linked it to any broader conspiracy. However, the concentration of similar incidents among individuals with ties to classified nuclear and space programs has prompted questions from national security observers about potential risks to experts in these fields. Anyone with information on Anthony Chavez's whereabouts is asked to contact the Los Alamos Police Department. And there's no comments. Wow. And this one was written on April 14th. Alright, so we're gonna take Mr. Chavez off of our list and move on to our next subject. Alright, here's some more Yahoo news for us yahoos. Canadian astrophysicist among dead and missing scientists at the center of U.S. probe. A conspiracy theory suggesting a nefarious connection between the deaths, murders, and disappearances of at least 10 individuals with ties to the U.S. scientific community has found its way to Washington and become the focus of multi-agency investigation. On Tuesday, in a statement to multiple media outlets, including CBS, the FBI announced that it was spearheading the effort to look for connections into the missing and deceased scientists, many of whom were reportedly involved in sensitive nuclear and aerospace research, including one murder victim who was an award-winning Canadian astrophysicist. Meanwhile, state and local police across the country have found no evidence linking the cases, which date back to 2023, and family members have also dismissed any connection. Here is what to know as the story continues to develop. Who is dead or moited? The most recent death tied to the conspiracy theory is that of Jason Thomas, a researcher for multinational pharmaceutical corporation Novartis, whose body was recovered from a Massachusetts lake in March. And let me see if I know I have him written down, but no, he's not one of our highlighted. Wow. His wife, who'd reported him missing in December, told NBC's Dateline that the 45-year-old had been struggling with his parents' recent sudden deaths at the time. His phone, wallet, and Apple Watch were all left behind. Wow. A month prior, Calgary-born Carl Grillmeier, an astrophysicist at the California Institute of Technology, was shot dead on the front porch of his remote Los Angeles County home. The 67-year-old's research, according to the school, focused on dark matter, galactic structure, stellar populations, and exoplanets. He collaborated with NASA often and was the recipient of the agency's Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal in 2011. A 29-year-old man whom Gilmore had called local police on for trespassing at his home about 2 months earlier was later charged with his moida. His death followed that of MIT professor Nuno Loureiro on December 15, 2025, who was shot by Claudio Neves Valente, a former classmate from 2 decades prior in their native Portugal. 2 days before killing Loureiro, an expert in fusion and plasma physics, authorities said Valente killed 2 people and wounded 9 more in the mass shooting at Brown University. He was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound on December 18th. So is that the same person that shot him? Huh. Wow. The July 2024 death of Frank Maywall, a 61-year-old research scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, has also been drawn into the investigation, according to CNN, as has his former co-worker, physicist Michael David Hicks, 59, who died almost a year earlier. The cause of death was never publicly disclosed in either case, but Hicks' daughter has addressed the speculation. From what I know of my dad, there's no train of logic to follow that would implicate him in this potential federal investigation. I don't understand the connection between my dad's death and the other missing scientists, she told CNN. I can't help but laugh about it, but at the same time, it's getting serious. While not a scientist, per se, another person whose name has been bandied about is former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer Matthew James Sullivan. Do I have him written down? No, I don't. What? A 39-year-old who took his own life in 2024 before he could testify in a federal whistleblower case about UFOs. Dude, no way. I can't believe there's more and more and more being added to this list. The more I read, I gotta write this guy down. if you don't find that suspicious, there's something wrong, because holy shnikes. This also reminds me of Boeing, the guy that was supposed to go in and testify against Boeing, and was really excited to do some damage and take some people down, supposedly unalived himself in the parking garage, which he didn't. He also said he would never do that. Oh my gosh. He was scheduled to come in for an interview within 2 weeks. He had suspiciously committed suicide, Representative Eric Burleson of Missouri told Fox. Yeah, because he had to testify in a federal whistleblower case about UFOs. Yeah, nothing shady there. Who is missing? The highest profile missing person, and the one whose disappearance catapulted the subject into the spotlight recently, is retired U.S. Air Force Major General William McCasland, who was last seen on a hiking trail near his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on the morning of February 27th. And I want to know who these witnesses are. Somebody witnessed, what was his name? Anthony Chavez leaving his home? Who saw this? Who are these witnesses? I want to know. Are they paid off? Because it's crazy. All of the people who have vanished to go on a hike left everything behind. Their phones, their wallets, their prescription glasses, and took a gun with them. Like, come on. The 68-year-old left home that day without his phone, prescription glasses, or any of the wearable devices the experienced hiker and avid outdoorsman would normally wear. Authorities have also not been able to find his wallet, his red backpack, or his .38 revolver with a red leather holster. Didn't one of the last stories we read say he didn't take his wallet? We know there was no activity on his accounts, so far as he goes. The FBI was already looking into his disappearance, which had sparked online speculation about a conspiracy theory due to Ms. McCasland's role as the commander of a research laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The Ohio facility is long rumored to be the U.S. government's home for research into unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and wreckage from the alleged 1947 alien space crash in Roswell, New Mexico. But McCasland's wife, Susan McCasland Wilkerson, dismissed any notion that his disappearance was connected to his work because he retired almost 13 years ago and had only very commonly held clearances since. It seems quite unlikely that he was taken to extract very dated secrets from him, she wrote. You never know what he knows. I mean, all of these people have a certain set of skills that is very interesting to me. Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from the Roswell crash stored at Wright-Patterson, though at this point, with absolutely no sign of him, maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of the mothership hovering above Sandia Mountains have been reported. Are you sure about that? I'm just going to turn down that background music just a smidge. Local police have said they don't suspect foul play. McCasland's disappearance resulted in renewed scrutiny over the June 2025 disappearance of 60-year-old aerospace engineer Monica Reza, who served as the director of the NASA JPL Materials Processing Group. Reza was hiking with a companion, wasn't it too? In a forest outside Los Angeles when she suddenly disappeared. She is yet to be found despite extensive searches of the area. Isn't it funny how every time we read an article, something has changed? Officials in Albuquerque are also looking into the August 2025 disappearance of 48-year-old Stephen Garcia. reportedly a property custodian with high-level clearance at the National Nuclear Security Administration's Kansas City National Security Campus in the city where non-nuclear components for nuclear weapons are manufactured. I just gotta look to see, do I have... Yes, I do. I have Stephen Garcia on there. Meanwhile, also missing are 2 individuals who worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, a leading nuclear research facility in New Mexico. Melissa Casilla, a 53-year-old married mother of 1 who worked as an administrative assistant at the lab, went missing under suspicious circumstances in June 2025, leaving behind all personal items. Reported that her phones had been factory reset. What? Melissa was an administrative assistant. Okay, I'm going to pause there really quick because even if it was factory reset, the company's still going to have all the stuff on that account. All the text messages and phone call logs and everything like that. So if they really were looking into it, they would contact the phone holder and get with them, whether it's Verizon or Cricket or whatever the heck you're going with. And they got to throw this in there. And how come she had 2 phones? Her phones had been factory reset. Melissa was an administrative assistant and did not have high-level clearance. Her niece, Jasmine McMillan, told CBS, noting she hasn't seen any evidence linking it to other cases. But then they also said that the husband has been dating already, so maybe he did something. I don't know. But all these people are linked. Somehow, some way, it's pretty crazy. About a month earlier, 78-year-old Anthony Chavez, who retired from his position as a construction foreman at the site, was also reported missing. He was last seen leaving his home on foot. On Facebook, his friend Carl Buckner noted that Chavez left behind his wallet, keys, and personal items. Officials told CNN foul play is not suspected in either case. What has Donald Trump and his administration said? Who cares? It's lies. All lies! The president was asked about the reports last week and said he hoped it was random. We're going to know in the next week and a half, he told the reporters outside before boarding the helicopter. I just left a meeting on that subject, so pretty serious stuff. On X, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said the White House is actively working with all relevant agencies and the FBI to holistically review all of the cases together and identify any potential commonalities that may exist. No stone will be unturned in this effort. No, we're going to stack a bunch of stones on top of it, right? Speaking on Fox's Sunday Morning Futures, FBI Director Kash Patel, our drinking buddy, said his office, in conjunction with the Department of Energy, the Department of Defense, and law enforcement agencies, will investigate whether there are connections to classified access to classified information, and or foreign actors. If there's any connections that lead to nefarious conduct or conspiracy, this FBI will make the appropriate arrest, he said. This FBI? Representative Mark Burleson and Republican counterpart James Comer, representative of Kentucky, have been leading efforts to have the cases investigated for a potential connection. As members of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, they sent letters to Patel, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Energy Secretary Chris Wright, and NASA boss Jared Isaacman on Monday, requesting a staff-level briefing on this topic no later than this coming Monday, April 27th. If the reports are accurate, these deaths and disappearances may represent a grave threat to U.S. national security and to U.S. personnel with access to scientific secrets, they wrote. Sunday on Fox, Comer said, "It's very unlikely that this is a coincidence." That's what I'm saying. Only Hicks, Reza, and McCaslin were mentioned by name in the letter. Meanwhile, spokesperson Bethany Stevens said on X that nothing related to NASA indicates a national security threat, but that it was working with other agencies in relation to the missing scientists. They're too busy making videos that aren't real. Did you see the one where they had people filming with their phones the astronauts before their takeoff, and you could see on their phones, weren't no astronauts on there. None of this was connected. It was all fake. So many fake things. Fake news. Fake news. All right. The agency is committed to transparency and will provide more information as able, she wrote. CNN reported that the Defense Department would only respond to the committee directly, and the Department of Energy referred questions to the White House. A National Nuclear Security Administration (NNSA) official told CBS it is looking into the matter. We've heard that line before. Who believes it's a coincidence? There are plenty of people already throwing cold water on the idea that the cases are connected in some shady way. Democratic Virginia Rep. James Walkinshaw, who sits on the Oversight Committee with Comer and Burleson, said an investigation is warranted, but doubts the handful of cases are connected. The United States has thousands of nuclear scientists and nuclear experts, he told CNN's Aaron Burnett this week. It's not the kind of nuclear program that potentially a foreign adversary could significantly impact by targeting 10 individuals. Buddy, my list is longer than that. The deputy director of the Project on Nuclear Issues at the Center for Strategic and International Studies noted that the cases are spread over several years and involve people at different and loosely affiliated organizations. If all of the scientists were working on one project or weapon system, then I'd be more suspicious. Come on, dude. They all have a specific set of skills. The outlet also spoke with Scott Roker, Vice President for Nuclear Materials Security at the Nuclear Threat Initiative, who suggested the recent war in Iran may be affecting people's judgment because some of that country's nuclear scientists have been assassinated. See, I told you guys, it's not just happening here. It's happening all over the world. But we're not like Iran. We have thousands of scientists. We have a robust infrastructure, so there would be nothing strategic Iran could achieve by taking out 10 or 20 of our nuclear scientists, as tragic as the individual deaths might be, Roker said. Paranormal investigator Benjamin Radford told Vanity Fair that, like most conspiracy theories, once you start looking into the details, the mystery sort of vanishes. He went on to add that some people pushing the connection theory are working backward. They're finding people who are already dead or missing and then trying to find some connection, however tenuous, to the defense industry, the Pentagon, UFOs, UAP, NASA. All right. How conspiracy theories about missing or dead scientists went from online forums to White House. Well, first I want to go back up and write down this feller's name that was not on our list to make the list even longer. All right, Michael David Hicks. The NASA scientist whose death went under the radar. Meet Michael David Hicks, who played a key role in studying near-Earth asteroids and comets. What do you guys think about all the freaking asteroid activity we've had the last 3 months? It's been insane. Higher than any year before. Michael David Hicks, who served as a scientist at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, died on July 30th, 2023 at the age of 59. The scientist dedicated his life's work to planetary science and small body dynamics in the solar system. Hicks worked for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory between 1998 and 2022. Participating in several space missions aimed at exploring asteroids and comets, Hicks received his academic training from Boston University before obtaining his PhD in lunar and planetary science from the University of Arizona. Some of Hicks' professional engagements include working on important projects such as DART and Deep Space One. On the other hand, Hicks also had an artistic side to him. Hicks is described by his obituaries as maintaining a balanced life of professional success and artistry, which colleagues mentioned during their observation periods. Michael David Hicks' contributions to comet and asteroid research. Hicks specialized in the physical properties of comets and asteroids. This area of research is not just theoretical. It plays a role in understanding how the solar system formed and how potential impact threats might be assessed. As reported by American Astronomical Society, he participated in the DART experiment, NASA's project dedicated to defending against asteroids that aims at testing methods for deflecting asteroids from Earth. In addition, he worked on such experiments as Deep Space One and Near-Earth Asteroid Tracking, which all belong to general efforts aimed at studying asteroids in NASA and places like the California Institute of Technology. His numerous publications, said to exceed 80 peer-reviewed papers, along with testimonials about his activity as researcher and practitioner, point to regular involvement in science. Michael David Hicks' academic path and professional life. Born in Dayton, Ohio, Hicks followed a traditional academic route into planetary science. After completing his undergraduate studies, he advanced to doctoral research that focused on lunar and planetary systems. This field combines physics, astronomy, and computational modeling. At JPL, his role evolved from postdoctoral researcher to research scientist. That transition is typical in research institutions where early career scientists gradually take on more independent projects. His work involved analyzing observational data and contributing to mission planning. It appears he remained involved with JPL projects until around 2022, shortly before his passing. Outside of his professional work, Hicks had creative interests that included visual arts. He also played the ukulele, and informal performances were reportedly part of observing sessions at Mount Palomar, according to American Astronomical Society. Michael David Hicks' death reports and speculation in online media. Following his death, some online reports began linking Hicks to broader narratives involving other scientists. Certain articles have suggested a pattern involving deaths or disappearances of individuals connected to space or defense-related research. These claims remain unverified and are presented by secondary sources rather than official confirmations. No publicly confirmed evidence has established a connection between these cases. In Hicks' case, the cause of death was not widely disclosed in public records, which has led to speculation in some media discussions. At the same time, official institutions such as NASA and JPL have not issued detailed public statements regarding individual circumstances beyond standard obituary acknowledgments. These interpretations continue to circulate online, though experts caution against drawing conclusions without verified evidence or credible institutional confirmation from authorities. Yeah, because we've never been let down by the institution or our government or, POTUS or anyone. The FBI? CIA? What? Alright. Who's next on our list here? There were several different articles on Mr. Maywald. But I think I'm going to read this one. It looks like it's not so mainstream media, so maybe we'll get a different perspective going. The blind spot. Rocks are falling through our roofs. The man who tested whether we'd see them coming was shot on his porch. Independence Day 2024. Another manager in the same sensor pipeline died. His obituary is the only proof he existed. Are you serious? They're running it now. 1 week ago, we published the long count 9 names connected to the Defense Aerospace Corridor. Deaths and disappearances spanning 9 months. We mapped the FRL funding chain. We documented the institutional silence. We laid out the Marconi parallel. We said nobody was looking at this list as a list. In 7 days, the wall cracked. CNN ran McCaslin's story with details we surfaced about his AFRL command history. Fox News did the same and mapped the 1 hour vanishing window. ABC News ran our connections and detailed the search operations. Newsweek brought in a former FBI agent and talked about details first covered here. And on Saturday, News Nation reported the connection this publication documented. First, that Monica Jacinto Reza, the inventor of Mandalay, vanished 9 months before the general who oversaw the budget that funded her work. They named the specific directorate the Air Force Research Laboratory Space Vehicles Directorate. None of them credited us. That's fine. The point was never credit. The point was that somebody with subpoena authority would look at this list as a list. That is now happening. While the network ran our connections, we kept investigating. This briefing contains 2 new names, new evidence on existing cases, and a question that connects 2 Sentinel investigations that were supposed to be separate. We'll take them in order. The Instrument Manager. On July 4th, 2024, Frank Werner Maywald, 61, died in Los Angeles, nearly a year before anyone else in this investigation vanished or was killed. Maywald was a technical group supervisor at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. His obituary and his publication trail on the NASA Technical Report Server document a career spanning radiometry, terahertz spectroscopy, and orbital remote sensing. He managed the development of the SBG-VSWIR instrument, a visible shortwave infrared spectrometer designed for the surface biology and geology mission. He had previously overseen the successful delivery of instruments for the AMR-C program and contributed to AMR/SWOT, COWVR, AM/JSON3, and Hi-Fi. These are not obscure academic instruments. Visible shortwave infrared spectroscopy detects anomalous surface emissions and identifies materials from orbit. Advanced microwave radiometry enables all-weather target tracking and maritime domain awareness. The civilian applications are climate monitoring and oceanography. The defense applications are intelligence, surveillance, and renaissance. The technology is inherently dual use, and Maywald managed programs on both sides of that line. His obituary contains no cause of death. No illness is mentioned. No decline is described. Born June 24th, 1964, in Rattingen, Germany, educated at the University of Cologne, he is survived by his wife of 25 years, Jon J. Maywald, his father, and his siblings. Entries in the public memorial guest book from colleagues make clear the death was sudden. Colleagues noted that he had been actively engaged in ongoing projects and making plans for the future. The shock documented by his peers is not the language of a long illness. No press relief from JPL, no memorial statement from NASA, no acknowledgement from Caltech, no local news coverage from the LA Times, Pasadena Star News, or any regional outlet. No entry located in the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner public database. His obituary is the only public record that Frank Werner Maywald existed and then stopped existing. JPL is where Monica Reza was working when she vanished 11 months later. Caltech/IPAC where Carl Grillmere ran quality assurance on the NeoWise data pipeline, is the same institutional family. 3 people from the Southern California Aerospace Corridor. Reza invented the alloy. Grillmere validated the sensor pipeline. Maywald managed the instruments. All 3 are gone. Sentinel Assessment. A senior JPL Technical Group supervisor managing cutting-edge dual-use remote sensing instruments died suddenly at 61. No cause of death has been disclosed. No institutional acknowledgement exists. The same silence that met the deaths and disappearances of Reza, Grillmere, and the Wright-Patterson personnel met Maywald nearly a year earlier. If this pattern has a beginning, it may be here. Independence Day 2024. Okay, there was something here that I had to check really quick. Where the heck did it go? Huh. There was a name I was going to check, but I don't see where it went. Sorry guys, I'm gonna pause this for a second because something just disappeared. Hold on. Well, I'm not finding it, but perhaps they're talking about Maywald? Alternate no. Alright, let's see. A senior JPL Technical Group supervisor managing cutting-edge dual-use remote sensing instruments died suddenly at 61. No cause of death has been disclosed. No institutional acknowledgement exists. The same silence that met the deaths and disappearance of Reza, Grillmere, and the Wright-Patterson personnel met Maywald nearly a year earlier. If this pattern has a beginning, it may be here, Independence Day 2024. The question we have to ask. 3 days ago, we published Special Report, The Sky is Falling. 11 confirmed fireball events in 20 days. I'm telling you guys, this shit is wrapping up quick. 3 meteorite falls reaching the ground. Since our report, 4 additional structures struck on 2 continents, bringing the total to 7. 2 daytime airbursts with sonic booms over major American cities 4 days apart. No major active shower. No known debris stream. ESA's planetary defense team assessed that the Koblenz object was a size class that impacts Earth infrequently and is often undetected by current sky surveys. The system designed to close that detection gap is NEO Surveyor, the first space telescope purpose-built to find objects that could hit Earth. Its data pipeline runs through IPAC at Caltech. The man who was validating whether that telescope's instruments would perform to specification, the instrument characterization specialist whose job was to find the blind spots before the telescope launched, was Carl Grillmere. Shot dead on his porch, his killer's charges had been dismissed 11 days earlier. What? Grillmere ran quality assurance on the NeoWise Science Data Center and validated the instruments for its successor. His work sat at the center of the detection layer. Find the dark, cold object against the black of space before it finds you. That layer is now missing, the person who tested whether it actually works. Hold on, I just gotta look. Grillmare. Yeah, I don't have him on here, I don't think. Nope, I do. Carl Grillmare. Shot. Okay, got it. We are not asserting a connection between these cases in the fireball cluster we documented in that special report. We're documenting that the person best positioned to identify the blind spots in the detection infrastructure currently failing to see objects before they hit is on this list. That is a question. It deserves an answer from someone with a badge and a budget. We do not have either. We have a keyboard and a pattern. The third man in the corridor. Maywald extends the timeline backward. This next name widens it. After the long count published, a reader pointed us to a case in Los Alamos that we had not investigated. In the long count, we documented Melissa Casillas, a DOE advisory board member connected to LANL, whose husband is a superintendent 3 of the laboratory who vanished from Taos on June 26, 2025. McCaslin vanished from Albuquerque 8 months later, both from the New Mexico Defense Corridor, both gone without a trace. Okay, hold on. McCaslin. Yes, we already read that one. All right. There is a third, and he was first. Anthony Chavez, to Supervisor of Support Services Team 7813-4. Yep. He joined the department in 1983. His work at the labs has been in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. He is a graduate at Votech Universal Technical Institute and TVI programs in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Before coming to Sandia, he worked for Chavira's Heating and Plumbing. So Anthony Chavez, 78, was a long-time LANL employee who worked at the laboratory until approximately 2017. He lived on 37th Street in the Denver Stills, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Los Alamos. The homes are prefabricated structures assembled from kits in the late 1940s by the Atomic Energy Commission to house workers during the post-war expansion of the nuclear weapons complex. The neighborhood exists because the laboratory exists. His landline records show that he last made calls from his house on the evening of May 5th, 2025. He did not carry a cell phone. On May 8th, when friends and family could not reach him, the Los Alamos Police Department conducted a welfare check. His car was locked in the driveway. Inside, his wallet, keys, and cigarettes sat on the living room table. No forced entry, no blood, no signs of struggle. Detective Ladislas Sabo, lead investigator, described the scene. There was no evidence of a scuffle. There was no blood. There was nothing. It was just like he left. Specialized cadaver dogs from the Sandia Search Dogs and Mountain Canine Corps searched his home, his sister's nearby house, and the trails along Pueblo Canyon. All searches returned negative. His bank activity ceased around May 5th. He has never been found. Carl Buckland, a close friend and attorney who had known Chavez since childhood, publicly disputed the idea that he left voluntarily. Especially leaving his cigarettes, come on now. He described Chavez as healthy and extremely mentally stable. The Los Alamos Police Department issued 2 missing person announcements in mid-May 2025. After May 20, all media coverage ceased. A single local Substack article from Boomtown, Los Alamos, published June 25, 2025, remains the most detailed public account of the case. We have not been able to confirm Chavez's specific role or division at LANL. That matters, and we are transparent about the limit. What we can confirm is that a longtime laboratory employee vanished from a town that exists because of the laboratory. 6 weeks before Reza and 7 weeks before Casillas, under circumstances that will look very familiar by the time you finish this briefing. Nobody saw him leave. 2 new names, now the new evidence on the names we already have. The narrative around McCasland has been that he left his home on foot. Every outlet reported it that way. We reported it that way. On Saturday, investigative journalist Ross Coulthart pointed out something that had been sitting in the timeline all along. In an interview on News Nation, Coulthart said, 1 hour. He was there with a repairman who saw him in the home, and when his wife came back a little over an hour later, he had disappeared. Nobody witnessed William Neil McCasland leave his house. A repairman interacted with him around 10 a.m. on February 27th. His wife left for a medical appointment at 11:10. When she returned at 12:04, he was gone. Between those 2 data points, there is nothing. No confirmed video from any surveillance camera on his street. No neighbor sighting. No trail camera. No doorbell footage. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office has canvassed over 700 homes and reviewed footage from both ends of his street. 0 confirmed sightings showing his direction of travel. The assumption that he left on foot is exactly that, an assumption. The evidence shows only that he was inside his house and then he was not. And you know what they say about assumptions. It'll make an ass out of you and me. The signature. On March 17th, press conference disclosed new physical details about McCasland's disappearance. Among the items unaccounted for from his home, his wallet, a .38 caliber revolver with leather holster, and a red backpack. He left behind his phone, prescription glasses, and wearable devices. BCSO confirmed McCasland had reported experiencing a mental fog. And the chick that I was telling you about, that has the burn on her hand and stuff, like, she's been having that too. And you know how we were talking about David Wilcock and how he felt tingly and weird, and I think he had a mental fog too. Like, I'm telling you, directed energy weapons. These things are crazy, but they do exist. Alright. Investigators pushed back hard. Okay, hold on. Let's go back to the mental fog. Experiencing the mental fog in the months before his disappearance, and had stepped down from groups he was involved with. Investigators pushed back hard. There's no indication, and we are not putting forward that Mr. McCasland was disoriented or confused. Arguably, he would still be the most intelligent person in the room that any of us would be in. Clothing believed to be his, a light green long-sleeve shirt and hiking boots, was recovered at his second home in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. Oh my gosh, that's like 30 minutes from here. Approximately 200 miles from Albuquerque. A gray U.S. Air Force sweatshirt was found 1.25 miles east of his residence on March 7th, but has not been confirmed by family. Now I'm very, very curious. While we track the press conference, we also pulled a thread on Melissa Casillas that changes the texture of her disappearance. The Taos News reported details we had not previously documented. Surveillance footage from Talpa residence on New Mexico 518 captured Casillas walking eastbound, carrying a backpack, roughly an hour after she dropped off lunch to her daughter on June 26, 2025. Her husband, Mark Casillas, a superintendent 3 at LA&L, relayed what a witness reported. He said she was staggering across the road like she was hurt or intoxicated, which she's not a drinker. Now lay them side by side. 3 people vanished from the New Mexico Defense Corridor between May 2025 and February 2026. A 4th, Monica Reza, vanished from Los Angeles National Forest in California under similar circumstances. In all 4 cases, the signature is the same. Chavez, May 2025, Los Alamos. Wallet, keys, cigarettes left on the table. No cell phone to track. Negative cadaver dogs. It was just like he left. Never found. Casillas, June 2025, Taos. Both phones factory reset. Carrying a backpack. Staggering on camera. Not a drinker. Never found. Reza, June 2025, Angeles National Forest. Waved at her hiking companion from 30 feet, then ceased to exist. FLIR negative search. Scent trail ended at a misplaced beanie. Never found. McCaslin, February 2026, Albuquerque. Red backpack missing. Phone, glasses, wearable devices left. Mental fog reported, but investigators say no impairment. No confirmed video of departure. Nobody witnessed him leave. Never found. Personal effects left behind in every case. Negative searches in every case. 0 confirmed sightings in every case. 0 bodies recovered in any case. 2 states, 100 miles of New Mexico desert, and 1 California ridgeline. The same outcome every time. Sentinel assessment? We are not asserting that these disappearances share a cause. We are documenting that they share a signature. The physical evidence at each scene, the negative results from every search technology deployed, and the complete absence of any confirmed sighting or remains describe the same event happening to different people across 2 corridors. The updated timeline. When we published the long count, we documented 9 names across a 9-month window, beginning with Monica Jacinto Reza on June 22, 2025. With Maywald and Chavez, the window is wider and the list is longer. July 4, 2024, Frank Werner Maywald, 61, JPL, Technical Group Supervisor, SBG-VSWIR and AMR-C programs, dead, no cause disclosed, no institutional acknowledgement, no news coverage. Shady AF. May 5th through 8th, 2025, Anthony Chavez, 78, LANL, specific role undisclosed, wallet, keys, and cigarettes left on table, no cell phone, negative cadaver dogs missing. June 22nd, 2025, Monica Jacinto Reza, 60, JPL, AFRL funded contractor, inventor of Mandalay. Vanished from the ridgeline in Angeles National Forest, missing. June 26, 2025, Melissa Casillas, 53, DOE Advisory Board member, connected to LANL. Both phones factory reset, staggering on surveillance footage, missing. October 25th, 2025, Jacob Pritchard, 34, AFRL Sensor Directorate, Jamie Pritchard, 33, AFL CMC, First Lieutenant Jamie Gustatus, 25, AFRL 711th Human Performance Wing, TS SCI cleared, dead, no motive determined. So, are all of these people dead on the October 25th thing? What? I need to take a screenshot of this, just so I have it for later. December 15th, 2025. Nuno Loureiro, 47, MIT. Herman Feshbach, Professor of Physics, Director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, LANL, ULAM, Distinguished Scholar. Shot in the foyer of his apartment building. Perpetrator identified. Dead. I don't think I have Nuno written down either. Of this? Yeah, I do. I do have Nuno. February 16th, 2026, Carl Grillmere, 67, Caltech IPAC, Neowise Pipeline, Neo Surveyor Instrument Characterization, shot dead on his porch. Charges against the killer had been dismissed 11 days earlier. I don't get that. Maybe it's from trespassing on his property? Because I think that's what I read earlier, that the person that shot him had trespassed before, but I guess the charges were dropped, so he came back and shot him? What the hell? Makes no sense. Or was it him? February 27th, 2026. William Neil McCaslin, 68, former AFRL commander. Red backpack, wallet, and revolver unaccounted for. Phone, glasses, and wearable devices left behind. Nobody witnessed his departure. Missing. Behind them, Dallas Hardwick, AFRL Materials Directorate, Rez's mentor. Mandalay co-inventor, died of cancer in 2014. I gotta take a picture of this one too. I think that one turned out, yeah. Oh, wow. 10 people on the active timeline, 11 names across 5 briefings, 19 months, 4 states, 1 institutional ecosystem connecting every name through patent filings, OSTI publications, congressional testimony, DTIC records, and federal contract databases. 1 week ago, nobody outside this publication was looking at these names together. Now CNN, Fox, ABC, NewsNation, and Newsweek are all running pieces of the picture. They are catching up. We are not slowing down. Sentinel assessment. Every name sent to this publication has survived rigorous verification against federal databases, OSTI records, NTRS publications, patent filings, police press releases, and newspapers of record. The pattern does not shrink under scrutiny, it grows. Maywald extends the timeline to July 2024 and adds a 3rd name from the JPL Caltech corridor. Chavez adds a 3rd disappearance from the New Mexico corridor, joining Casillas and McCaslin, with the same physical signature documented across all 4 missing person cases. National broadcast media is now running the connections we published. The jurisdictional walls that prevented pattern recognition are developing cracks. We are not asserting causation. We are not asserting conspiracy. We are documenting that nobody is looking at this list as a list, and now they are. If you have a name, send it. We will verify it the same way we verified these. Keep looking up the Sentinel. Sentinel note, we hate paywalls as much as you do. Every article we've published is free and we plan to keep it that way. That's not changing, but this publication has no institutional backing, no sponsors, and no editorial board. If you can subscribe, you're funding independent investigation with no strings attached. If you can't, we don't care. Read everything, share everything. The mission is the mission. I am definitely going to subscribe. These guys did an epic job. If this briefing reached you, the suppression gradient didn't catch it, share it. Every restack, every forwarded link, every text to someone who should be reading this is a data point against the gradient. Previous briefings, the long count, the green burial, the ghost general, the dead drop, the verdict, the ancient engine, the curated orbit, the sky is falling. And there's a discussion about this post. JC says at this point, you might as well map their circles of contacts, especially professional, and see who isn't missing. The individuals were the circles. Maximally intersect presents some interesting questions. Red Eye 13, I think it's supposed to be 3-Eye Atlas, went through the asteroid belt. A couple of the rocks that hit structures seem associated with Vesta, second largest object in the asteroid belt. Ancient impact seems to have created Vesta-sourced debris in the region. By accident or on purpose, possibly, Three-Eye Atlas perturbed some asteroid belt rocks and dragged them or knocked them toward Earth. If an intelligence sent a probe to scout our solar system and had marked out a planet, Earth, as having intelligence beings on it, then sending rocks at its atmosphere might be a way to probe for level advancement. Say what kind of planetary defense is in place against impacts from space rocks. Alright, let's see. Don't stop, keep going. Fascinating reporting, I agree. Either our government, possibly witness protection, or another country. I pray they are safe and their families will have answers soon. Mythic cryptography. 13 in the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. 14. And the heaven departed as a scroll, when it's rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. 15. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. 16. And said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. 17. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? But yeah, I definitely agree. Something is very wrong here. Very, very wrong. Alright. Let's see where that one was. Yeah. Copy this. Copy. Alright. Okay. And there was something underneath this after. So yeah, I think I just need to go back one. Yes. Okay, so these are just different articles that these guys wrote. The Green Burial. Was this on the list that we have above? The Green Burial, the Long Count, the Verdict. I believe it was, but let's just double check and make sure we're not missing anything. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, go to the Sentinel briefing, I believe it is. Hold on. Yeah. So the Sentinel.network. That's TheSentinel.network. And subscribe, because these guys have done the best job so far that I've seen of anyone. Subscribe. Oh no. Yeah. I'm gonna do free for now, because I cannot afford anything at the moment. But I will pay something when I can. Okay. Alright. Spread the word. Yeah, that was an amazing article. I don't know what you guys thought about that, but I'm very impressed. Let me put an asterisk. Must read. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's post it. Post it, peeps. Post it. And if you see it, share it. Alright, waiting for that to process, and then I gotta... What? There we go. Alright. Well, let's see how much time we have left and what we should do next. Alright, so I guess we'll finish with the article I was talking about how these stories, these missing people, these moided people, these people that supposedly unalive themselves, how this has gotten to the White House. All right, let's see. How conspiracy theories about missing or dead scientists went from online forums to the White House. Did I mention that the number for me after this investigation tonight is up to 21? This is insane. All right. Yahoo News for us yahoos. Speculation about links among a handful U.S. scientists who have died or disappeared in recent years was largely confined to niche online communities less than 2 months ago. As of Friday, the number had grown to at least 12 and was at the epicenter of U.S. government, with both the FBI and Congress investigating possible connections. At a press gathering April 16th, President Donald Trump was asked about the 10 missing scientists with access to classified stuff, nuclear material, aerospace. They've all gone missing or turned up dead in the last couple of months and years, whether he thought there were ties among them. Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half, Trump said. And you know how he is with his timelines. Anywho's, those speculating about the cases suggest that the individuals were targeted perhaps by global USO adversaries. Why do I keep saying USO? U.S. adversaries, because of the sensitive nature of their work related to topics such as astrophysics, nuclear weapons, and pharmaceuticals. But so far no evidence has been found that definitively links them or establishes coordinated foul play. Let me just make sure my music over here isn't too loud. I think it's a little loud. Let's take it down a notch. Alright, that's a little better. Joel Goldbeck, a professor at the University of Maryland, who studies conspiracy theories, said the idea of a sinister connection between tragedies involving scientists is a common trope within conspiracy theory communities. There are a lot of people who work for national labs and universities and government research centers, and some of them will go missing or commit suicide or die, she said. In a year, you could take a bunch of those and name them as something sinister if you wanted to. The path from niche online communities to the mainstream. The deaths and disappearances in question garnered suspicion from online sleuths as they occurred, but it was the disappearance of 68-year-old William Neal Casland, a retired Air Force general, on February 27th, that fueled a wider belief that there could be a nefarious connection between these incidents, spurred in part by his high-ranking military work and connection to the UFO community. Around this time, people began pointing to other examples of scientists who had died or gone missing, ultimately going back as far as June 2022. The Daily Mail published an article on March 22nd naming 5 individuals and reporting that a chilling pattern has emerged after a string of U.S. scientists died or went missing in recent months. On April 15th, a question about the missing or dead individuals came up at a White House press briefing, and by the next day, Trump said he had met with advisors and the issue was being investigated. FBI Director Kash Patel, our drinking buddy, reiterated the importance of looking for connections in these cases Sunday on Fox News. The House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is conducting its own investigation. That's pretty typical for how a lot of this stuff works, is that there are these fringe online spaces. They start it spreads, it gets picked up by the more conspiratorial-minded politicians who do have platforms, and makes its way onto more mainstream social media and then grabs that attention, said Goldbeck. Callie Colney, co-director of the Center of Media Psychology and Social Influence at Northwestern University, agreed that these conspiracy theories are following a familiar pattern of starting in more niche venues before finding their way into the national conversation. Once it's made it to the mainstream, and once we experience this repeat exposure to it, it sort of just embeds into our minds as something that maybe we just take as fact, or we just take as something that is common knowledge without ever really critically thinking, well, where did this come from to begin with? And is there any validity to this? She said. Correlation does not imply causation. There are some parallels among the dozen or so individuals at the heart of these conspiracy theories, such as associates and associations with Los Alamos National Laboratory and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and some of those named had specialized knowledge and high-level security clearances. But the list contains many reasons to doubt the claims spread online. In some of these cases, investigations had already been conducted with suspects identified or charged. In others, no connections were apparent or evidence was lacking or not as convincing as it first appeared. For example, Nuno F.G. Loureiro, a physicist and fusion scientist who was a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is on the list. He was fatally shot on December 15th by Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, who was also responsible for a mass shooting at Brown University days prior. Neves Valente took his own life. A motive has not been established, but the two men knew each other decades earlier as classmates in Portugal studying physics. That's weird. Very odd. Another questionable account. Carl Grillmeyer, an astrophysicist at the California Institute of Technology who discovered water on a distant planet, was fatally shot on February 16th, according to local reports. Authorities charged 29-year-old Freddie Snyder with Grillmeyer's murder and carjacking. Snyder is being held on a multi-million-dollar bond. Fred Snyder. Melissa Casillas, then 53, went missing on June 26 in New Mexico. She worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory, and while some online assumed she was a scientist there, according to her LinkedIn profile, Casillas actually worked as an administrative assistant. And as we read earlier, she also made purchases for the company. As for McCaslin, he left home without his phone, prescription glasses, and wearable devices, according to Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office. His hiking boots, wallet, and .38 caliber revolver could not be found at the house. There is no evidence indicating foul play, and he remains missing. They did not mention the Pagosa thing. McCaslin's wife, Susan Wilkerson, wrote in a Facebook post on March 6 responding to online rumors that since his retirement 13 years ago, McCaslin has had only very commonly held clearances, and that it seems quite unlikely that he was taken to extract very dated secrets from him. She added that although he had a brief association with the UFO community, he does not have any privileged knowledge about aliens. In the face of tragedy or uncertainty, people seek patterns and explanations rather than accepting ambiguity or coincidence, said Donnell Probst, Executive Director of the National Association for Media Literacy Education. Narratives suggesting hidden connections or intentional wrongdoing can feel more satisfying than incomplete or evolving information, even without supporting evidence. But we all know about JFK and other things that just don't really make sense. But yeah, I've had enough of that for this evening. Let's get into something ghostly. I actually found something that I would like to share with you. Alright. I'm going to pause our music here. This is an article or a story from the Y-Files about voices, sounds that astronauts heard on the moon. Okay, so during the lunar missions, astronauts reported unusual sounds and moments of complete isolation on the far side of the moon. Some recordings were archived, while others remain difficult to explain. Official answers exist, but not everyone finds them convincing. The mystery still lingers. Oh, well, let's pause it. Our sound was not on. Let's rewind a little bit. All right. Start again.
This episode of the Wild Files is brought to you by PDS-DET. On May 25th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy made a bold and seemingly impossible challenge to Congress.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
That challenge accelerated the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. The first superpower to land on the moon wouldn't just plant the flag, give a speech, and grab a few moon rocks. Dominion over the moon would be a source of national pride, technical superiority, and military supremacy. By 1965, lunar probes from the U.S. and the USSR were sending back the first pictures of the dark side of the moon. That's when the world's two greatest superpowers realized they were too late. The moon had already been claimed, just not by humans. What is it now?
I need the company credit card. It's an emergency.
Nope. Last time I let you use the card, you spent $3,000 at Home Depot.
So what? I was trying to do something nice for your wife.
So you bought her a jackhammer?
I overheard her asking you for one. So, last night, Dirty and I were watching 9.5 Weeks.
Please don't.
And he gave us a great business idea. We just need a little dough to get it going.
Another business. What is it this time?
We're making homemade jam. We're calling it
Toe jam.
Jam.
That's a sweet food made from fruit and sugar, boiled to a thick consistency.
I know what jam is.
My baby personally measures the fruits with a camel toes. Gives it a natural, earthy taste. We've been experimenting with some interesting flavors.
Look, I don't even
We
want
got that very sticky beaver. That one's made with fresh, squeezed beaver musk.
Ew.
I said I don't.
Oh, our favorite is sea jam delight.
Is that what was on my toast this morning?
Oh, you're pretty good, huh?
And it tasted like wet dog and prunes.
It's gonna be our bestseller. Tastes great, it's completely organic, and it helps you with your PMs.
Please stop describing everything.
Come on, Newman, we're up to our gills and credit card debt here. Only jam is gonna get us out of this jam.
Why don't you just call PDS-DET?
Oh, did you just spread your way into today's sponsor chance?
I sure did. PDS-DET is a top-rated company on Google.
But my credit score might make this a little less sticky.
There's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit is accepted. You can save thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time. PDS is giving our qualified viewers a free debt analysis just for completing the 30-second online assessment at www.pdsdebt.com/files.
That's PDSDEBT.com/files.
You got it.
So no jams.
No jams. Wait, are you crushing fruit in my bathtub?
Now you can stop crushing those plums, honey. And now the fruit, you dirty, naughty cow. Hang on, let me ask you. Hey, Ewan, do you mind if we borrow that jackhammer?
It's July 21st, 1969, and a man referred to as the Forgotten Astronaut isn't here to touch the surface of the moon. That job belongs to Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, who are 60 miles below. Michael Collins orbits the moon, completely alone in space.
I think you mean Michael Collins is alone in his trailer, while Neil and Buzz are on the soundstage, being dangled by wires or whatever.
Okay, we know that you think the moon landing was fake.
It's phony as a $2 bill.
$2 bills are real.
You'll believe anything.
Since we're talking about what the astronauts saw on the dark side of the moon, we're going to have to assume that they were there.
Go ahead. I like science fiction.
signal on the far side of the moon. They described it as whistling space music. Hearing it, you might think it's a transmission from Earth, but that's not possible. Apollo 10 was on the far side of the moon where radio waves can't reach. Whatever these sounds were, they were definitely coming from somewhere on the far side of the moon. After the mission, NASA put the sound recordings in a vault.
NASA's vault, also known as the Shredder.
Well, that's true. The original high-quality recordings of the moon landings are gone. NASA said they either lost them or reported over them. They're not sure.
Or they never went up to the moon and losing the tapes is a
Yeah,
convenient
it's
way to
total
cover it
bullshit.
up.
Or that. While Michael Collins is hearing eerie video, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are having their own encounter on the moon's surface. But they aren't hearing things. They're seeing them. NASA may have lost the tapes, but we still have transcripts of radio communications. There are hours and hours of conversations between the astronauts, ground control, even the President of the United States. But here's something strange. 2 minutes of radio communications are missing. But we do have the transcripts of those minutes. And the transcripts explain why the audio is missing. The astronauts definitely saw something on the moon. Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong planted an American flag on the surface of the moon. The entire world watched them do it. But they left something else, something that we didn't see. Within a few feet of the first blueprint made on the moon lies a small white cloth pouch. Inside the bag is a gold olive branch, a symbol of peace. Also in the bag is a disc.
Ew, I hope they left a copy of Journey live in Houston.
They didn't miss
No,
it.
that's too bad. The escape tour was where I met my second wife.
Do you mind if
My first wife paid for the tickets.
the disc?
A little orange fish who grew up with a crazy wish.
Amazon offers
Midnight pole going anywhere. What? You didn't see that coming?
Unfortunately, I did. The disc was made of silicon and about the size of a $50 coin. Etched onto the disc are letters so small you can only read them under a microscope. The disc had messages of goodwill from NASA and 73 world leaders. Now, why bring messages of peace to an empty world? Because the Apollo 11 crew was warned that when they landed on the moon, they wouldn't be alone. Back in 1965, the crew of Gemini 4 experienced the first recorded UFO sighting in space. It's in the radio transcript from astronaut James McDivitt. After that sighting, NASA astronauts created code words for UFOs, like bogey, Santa Claus, and fire. When Apollo 8 went into lunar orbit in 1968, the crew saw a Santa Claus. We had Jim Lovell's report to Houston. Is there something on the moon that NASA doesn't want us to know? The answer, of course, is yes. Do we know what they're hiding? Well, thanks to a few whistleblowers, that answer is also yes. It was 1965 when Airman Second Class Carl Wolf was summoned to NASA's Lunar Orbiter Project facility. He was in a hangar surrounded by scientists.
from other countries speaking another language didn't make any sense to me.
And they looked concerned.
What are all these people doing here? And they were very quiet, very reserved, and there was a very peculiar pall hanging over them. They had a very concerned demeanor.
Carl was just a technician. He was there to fix a piece of equipment that processed images from the lunar satellites. So he went into the dark room where the imaging equipment was. Now, while waiting for clearance to move the equipment to a better workspace, another airman working there shows Carl something life-changing.
About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, in a very distressed way, by the way, we discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, circle buildings, and towers.
So Carl finishes the job and goes home. He was excited to learn more about these moon bases on the evening news. That news report would never happen. Then Carl realized there was a cover-up, and he was part of it.
60% of sales on Amazon come from independent sellers.
Blew the whistle and started doing interviews. During a national press conference in 2001, he said he was willing to go before Congress under oath.
And I will testify under oath before Congress that what I'm saying is the truth.
He never got to testify.
No, here we go. Police say he's alive and well and didn't die in a mysterious unsolved case with no suspects.
Well,
He died in a mysterious unsolved case with no suspects, didn't he?
while on a bike ride near his home, Carl Wolf was hit by a truck and killed.
Son of a bitch.
But Carl wasn't alone. Dr. Ken Johnston also knew NASA was lying. From 1969 to 1972, Johnston worked with NASA as an aerospace engineer at their Lunar Receiving Laboratory. If something came back from the moon, he helped catalog it, including photos taken by the Apollo astronauts. And what he saw was stunning. There were photos of alien cities and ancient machinery. There were ruins, domed buildings, stone towers, and objects that seemed to defy gravity. A supervisor asked him to destroy all the photos of the moon's surface. Johnston did, but he secretly held on to one set of pictures. After he came forward in 1995, Dr. Johnston was dismissed and never worked for NASA again. Donna Hare is another former NASA employee with secret clearance.
I was talking to one of the techs in there, and he drew my attention to a photograph, a NASA photograph. It had a dot on it, and I said, "What is that?" Well, he drew my attention to it, and I said, "Is that a dot on the emulsion?" And he's smiling, and he has his hands crossed, and he said, "Round dots on the emulsion don't leave round shadows on the ground."
She said that NASA scrubbed UFO and alien anomalies from their photos, sanitized for our safety.
And by its very nature, UFO, and I wanted to clarify that to a gentleman that was talking to me, means unidentified, so I did not know what this was. But I realized at this point that it's very secret, that it was kept secret, because I asked him, "What are you going to do with this piece of information?" And he said, "We always airbrush these out before we sell them to the public."
Robert Dean was a U.S. Army major who worked for NATO. In 1964, he saw a report called The Assessment. This report covered an alleged 1961 UFO incident with dead aliens. Dean claimed that NASA destroyed 40 rolls of film from the Apollo missions. Some of the saved pictures are of cigar-shaped objects seen by Neil Armstrong. There's a picture of a disc the astronauts saw as they orbited the moon. There are also pictures of huge buildings in the Landsberg crater.
The astronauts in orbit above the moon were particularly fascinated by the Landsberg crater. There was construction going on. There were gigantic facilities in the crater up there, so they were specifically delegated and assigned to photograph Landsberg to see if they could figure out what the hell was going on down there. While they were looking at Landsberg,
images. I did a whole episode on how NASA photoshopped pictures of Mars and the Earth, and some of their editing was pretty sloppy.
NASA Mars cover-up link down the alley, Sally.
In 1994, the Clementine orbiter took 2 million pictures of the moon's surface. When they were released to the public, people started noticing that many of them had sections that were blurred out. Here's an image of the Zeeman crater. Clearly, something is being censored. When other images of the crater were overlapped, compressed, and compared, it became obvious that something was there. This became known as the Zeeman object. Some people think this object is a giant spacecraft as large as a city. It's thought to be a ship because another picture of the Zeeman crater has been censored and shows a different object. When compared, overlapped, and enhanced, there appears to be another large ship. Now, don't bother looking for the censored images on NASA's website. They're gone. Other anomalies have been spotted like giant footprints. Scientists have tried to explain them away as meteor impacts, but that's probably not what they are.
These structures that we see stretching over tens of kilometers across the lunar surface do not appear to be related to impact cratering processes.
Pyramids have been found on the moon's surface, obelisks and mile-high towers. As recently as 2021, China's moon rover took a picture of what's been called a mystery hut. NASA has explanations for all of these. They're tricks of the light, or pareidolia, where your mind sees an object in randomness, like a cloud shaped like an animal. Now, of course, we can know for sure if we would actually visit these structures, but there doesn't seem to be an appetite for that. Before the lunar missions, both the U.S. and Russia planned to establish military bases on the moon. The original plan for the moon was not exploration, but weaponization. The U.S. called this plan Project Horizon. And let me know if you want to see a full episode about this. It's pretty intense. So in the 1950s, getting to the moon was a major priority.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
In the 1960s, both the United States and the Soviet Union scrambled to get a man on the moon.
It is for these reasons that I regard the decision last year to shift our efforts in space from low to high gear as among the most important decisions that will be made during my incumbency in the office of the presidency.
The U.S. got there first. The Soviet program was set back by a few failures, but they kept trying. Apollo 17 was the last manned mission to the moon. That was December 1972. Although more missions were planned, the United States canceled them. In 1972, the Soviet lunar program was no longer a priority, and in 1974, the Soviet Union officially canceled its program. Now, if I were a conspiracy theorist, I would think that both the U.S. and the Russian government, despite being enemies, agreed to stay away from the moon. In 1972, the only way those two countries would agree on anything was if they were forced to. The USSR and the US were the only superpowers on Earth, but there was another bigger superpower, and this one was on the moon. Astronauts of the Apollo missions hearing and seeing things, bases on the far side of the moon, whistleblowers uncovering proof. This story is full of wild claims, but let's break it down. publicly discuss the sounds. Apollo 8 said they saw Santa Claus because they were in space on Christmas Eve. It was just a joke. This episode is not about the Stanley Kubrick conspiracy.
Stanley Kubrick, boomio below.
Thanks for that.
Neil buzz, everybody back to one. Camera rolls, sound thing, and action with the flag thing.
Okay, we get it. As for the whistleblowers, well, as most whistleblowers do, they receive a lot of scrutiny. Critics say people like Ken Johnston and Donna Hare never worked as closely with NASA as they claim. Johnston only worked for companies contracted with NASA, and after he made his claims about stolen photos, he never worked at NASA again. Also, his story has changed a bit over the years. A lot of Johnston's moon photos have been debunked. Well, in my opinion, not fully debunked, but there are valid challenges to his photos. In the description, I linked to the book Dark Mission by Richard Hoagland and Mike Barra. Dark Mission shows a lot of these photos. It's worth checking out, and you can make up your own mind. There you go, Barra. You got a plug. You happy? I'm teasing. To be fully transparent, Mike contributes to this channel. He's one of the people who got me interested in the moon. But being honest, when I say I read Dark Mission when it first came out, and Richard Hoagland was one of my favorite guests that Art Bell would have on Coast to Coast, so the book is fun, and the link is below. Now, back to the whistleblowers. Donna Hare was also a contract worker. Her clearance was relatively low, and she made that clear. But the only proof we have of her story is what she says.
And I was just amazed that they had a protocol in place for getting rid of UFO pictures.
The same is true for Carl Wolf. He was very much who he said he was, but the only evidence we have of what Carl saw is what Carl said he saw.
We walked over to one side of the lab, and he said, "By the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon." And I said, "Whose?" What do you mean, whose?
The whistleblower stories are compelling. To me, Carl Wolf sounds sincere, but without hard evidence, so there's no way to know for sure. Now, I'm glad whistleblowers come forward, but always be skeptical of them. Some of them are telling the truth, and some are just spreading disinformation for Air Force intelligence. Which ones are telling the truth? I have no idea, and I think NASA and the U.S. military like it that way. If there's any hard evidence about bases or ancient ruins on the moon, NASA has it, and if they do, it's classified, and we're not going to see it. But hard evidence or not, the moon is weird. No matter how wide a crater is, the depths are pretty uniform. It rings like a bell for hours when struck. It's too large and too close to the Earth. No other planet in our solar system or any other solar system has a moon like ours. The moon shouldn't even be there.
Hello, Moon Theory Link on the deal.
And the far side is even stranger. It's completely different from the side that faces us. We first learned this in 1959. That's when the Soviet space probe Luna 3 took the first pictures of the moon's far side. It's paler. Its craters are several miles wide and completely cover the entire back surface. The crust is 30 miles thicker than the crust on the side that we see. Scientists theorize the moon formed from two separate moons that slowly collided into one. But it's odd that one side of the separation perfectly faces us, and the other side is perfectly hidden. That's a strangely accurate space collision.
Oh, so this theory says the moon is like a McDLT.
How's that?
One side cold, one side hot, but forms a perfect burger.
No, that's just a theory.
The McDLT is not a theory, it's a delicious fact.
Those were pretty good burgers. I don't know why they didn't bring those back. Within the next 10 to 20 years, the moon is going to be a very crowded place. Whatever's up there, we're going to know about it. And if it turns out that aliens are on the moon, then one of two things happens. One, it's the greatest discovery of the human race. Or two, it's the end of it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
All right. So I went and looked at the one that I had first found that was talking about astronauts hearing voices in space, and it's a bunch of like ancient trips to space, ancient meaning in our history, prior to now. And it's mostly about the Soviets and stuff and failed missions, etc., etc. But I did find an article about a pyramid that was found in the Amazon rainforest. And it says, scientists searching beneath the dense Amazon rainforest uncovered something astonishing. A hidden 6-story pyramid buried deep under the jungle canopy. Discovery is raising new questions about what ancient civilizations may have built in places once thought too remote and unforgiving. And the pyramid was not the only surprise waiting below the surface. The deeper researchers looked, the more complex and lost the landscape became. And this is by Scary Mysteries. And I believe there's another story with this too, so it won't go the whole 11 minutes. If it does, then I will go ahead and post it on WeAreParadoxMedia on Facebook, so that way you guys can watch the rest of it. But yeah, let's go. Scary Mysteries.
Thanks for tuning in to Twisted News. I'm Andrew Fitzgerald, and right here every single week we're bringing you the scariest and coolest stories all around that you need to know about. Today, we're looking at an insane discovery from our ancient past. What? Recently, out under the thick and lush Amazon basin forest, scientists discovered a hidden 6-story high pyramid. We'll also look into a case where a creepy guy was seen wandering around a campsite, and that story turned into a popular murder case known as the Moab murders in Utah. We'll dig into that, as well as the recently named suspect in that case. And now, here are the Scary Mysteries Twisted News.
I'm ready.
Number 1. 6-story high pyramid found in the rainforest.
That's huge!
Studies in ancient civilizations will always be something worth learning more about. The interest in the ways of life, cultures, and surroundings of the peoples from way back when will never cease, but as will always be curious about where we come from. There's always something worth discovering, especially now that technology has been offering better means to study the surroundings even in the past. Recently, on May 25th of 2022, a paper about research on the southwest corner of the Amazon basin, also called the Bolivian Amazon, came out. Archaeologists revealed that about 1,500 years ago, ancient Amazonians lived beneath the forest. However, the surroundings that they lived in were exactly what the researchers expected. Using remote sensing technology called LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, archaeologists were able to determine that a hidden, luscious area in the Amazon basin was actually ancient urban settlements that stretched for about 80 square miles in totality.
Wow.
The centers had elevated roadways, rectangular platform molds, and pyramids that rose to about 6 stories high or about 22 meters, all made from the earth. The technology used by researchers is a laser technology that examines the Earth's surface. With the accurate data this technology collects, scientists and researchers can study a location, understand its environment, and determine its natural and man-made features. This is usually used when scoping an area.
Is this the same stuff that they used for what they found under the pyramids? Probably not. I think that was ground penetrating, but it's pretty amazing all the ancient things that we are coming to find these days with technology.
For mapping or for understanding its characteristics. Through LiDAR, archaeologists were able to determine that these urban
Amazon
Aside from the pyramids and roadways, archaeologists were also able to identify canals, causeways, ramparts, and buildings which were meticulously designed. Archaeologists cited that the way that these were built most likely showed the cosmological worldview of the Kasara cultures. This mind-blowing discovery was currently considered the first clear evidence of urban societies that lived in that corner of the Amazon basin, according to archaeologist Jonas Gregorio de Sousa from the Pompeu University, located in Barcelona, Spain.
He's got a very long name.
This new information changed the way that we look at the Amazon rainforest, but still various questions remain. Researchers are trying to understand why these settlements were abandoned after being inhabited for about 900 years. According to radiocarbon dating, the Kasara vanished around 1400 AD, and incidentally, it was also around that same time when these urban settlements were abandoned. One of the team members and authors of the research paper published in Nature.com, archaeologist Heiko Krumers from the German Archaeological Institute, speculated that a major change in the environment might have caused the civilization to leave the settlements. The speculation was based on the images provided by the LiDAR. According to the images, the area wasn't always moist, which would prove problematic for any civilization that needed agriculture to thrive. However, also from the same data, the archaeologists cited that corn was continuously grown in the area, even dating back thousands of years.
Corn.
Right now, they know where to look, but providing a definite reason as to why they abandoned the settlements is unknown. Because of the lush, thick jungle, it almost became impossible to stumble upon this amazing discovery. It was through LiDAR that we were once again reintroduced to another perspective of the ancient world. It just goes to show that there's a huge possibility that there are still many places on Earth yet to be discovered, which would greatly change the way we see not just our ancestors, but ourselves.
Well, that was pretty interesting. And the pictures that were on there were pretty interesting as far as pyramids and the way we look at pyramids. These pyramids were super steep as far as their structure. But yeah, very interesting. Like I was saying, what we can do these days with technology. It seems to be ramping up. Where did we get this? Was it from aliens? Are aliens our ancestors? I don't know. There's so many weird things going on out there. Even things that are supposed to be normal are very abnormal. I'm about ready for things to go back to normal, except we all know normal does not exist. But yeah, pretty good stories tonight. Pretty interesting, I must say. But we gotta go. Thank you so much once again for hanging out with me tonight. It was my pleasure hanging out with you. Hopefully you were entertained and you weren't bored. Yeah, tomorrow night we're going to be doing some story time with me, TessaTNT. So guess what? You're going to be hearing a lot of me, freaking talking and reading again. Just my voice. Yeah, I know. It's alright. It's alright. Calm down, calm yourself down. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Please, if you have the means, ability, or initiative, if you believe what I'm doing here, or just enjoy hanging out with me on the airwaves, maybe sling or fling some green my way. It would really help me keep this mothership afloat. Places you can donate are by mail at P.O. Box 663, Bayfield, Colorado 81122, Cash App at $TessaTNT, PayPal at TessaTNT, and Venmo at Tessa-Thomas-Peterson. Nighty night, love and light. To all my yous out there, especially you. Take care, my you, and I will see you back here tomorrow night. Same crazy time, same crazy place. Sweet dreams. Make sure you give your monster on your bed a little snuggle.